You are now about to witness.
Wednesday. Don't wax.
Wednesdays on Wax.
Yes, party people in the place. Welcome back to Wednesdays on Wax. This episode we have a very special guest, a very good old friend of mine. We had him on the show 2 years ago when Wednesdays on Wax was just on Instagram.
Right.
So I decided I have to meet him again.
Yes, sir.
And here we go. Can we hear him?
Yo, what's up? What's going on? What's going on?
It
Can you
looks
hear me?
okay
Can
from
you hear me?
here.
Yo, so what's up? This is DJ Amir. Sitting next to my good friend DJ Hype, Marc Hype. We've known each other for almost 20 years now, man.
It must be like that.
Yeah. When me and Khan first came to Germany, first on tour, not knowing anything. He was a good host to us. He showed us a lot of different things, showed us a lot of great German breaks and records and stuff like that. So we've been homies for a long time. So thank you very much.
Very lucky that you're here.
No doubt.
Very satisfied. we have had also like already a good meeting before.
Yeah.
We had already crazy talks for 2 hours. So now we're starting with the history talks.
Yeah, man.
Because we had the actual talks we had already.
Yeah, exactly.
What's happening. So, where we start? A little bit in the beginning again, because not everybody knows who DJ Amir is.
Yes.
You originated in Boston.
Yeah, I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. Born and raised. I moved to New York sometime around the early part of '95 and left there in 2018 and came here to Berlin. So I've been living here since 2018. But I was born and raised in Boston. I actually met Khan after I moved to New York, which is crazy because we knew a lot of the same people, but we just never met.
And Boston's not the biggest city at all.
No, it's a really small city.
That's why I'm wondering that you haven't met before.
Yeah, I'm
I mean, you had the same intentions, like the hardcore digging at this time, right?
We never met in a record store, anything like that.
Super weird somehow.
Super weird, but it was meant to be when we were supposed to meet. So
Yeah.
it is.
So, but how it was for you musically, like when you started out in Boston, in your household? I read you have a very musically family, like your father had a big jazz collection.
Yeah. My father had a huge jazz record collection because my father also grew up with this jazz artist named Jackie Byard, who played with Charles Mingus and stuff like that. They were childhood friends. Actually, my father told me that he dated Jackie's sister when they were in high school. So that's how close they were.
Wow.
But, like he had a lot of jazz records, and then my brothers and sisters had, everything from disco to jazz to funk and all that other stuff. And, I'm sitting in the next room listening to their records, but I can never have their records. I can never go in their room and touch their records.
Damn.
So I had to, buy my own. And that kind of set me on the path of buying records and collecting records. Because this is before, obviously before downloading, even before CDs and cassettes and shit like that. So you would have to go, for instance, Woolworths. Here, well, that's originally an American company. And back in the days, you could buy vinyl there. And that's how there was one up the street from me, and I would buy vinyl.
This was like a discount of a vinyl then. In this case.
Yeah. It was like you would just cutouts.
That stuff. That's what I mean.
And then I would go and get a sundae, ice cream at the counter after I finished, spending my allowance on vinyl. You know what I mean? And I would just listen to what my brothers were listening to, or have a photographic memory, and that's that Stevie Wonder record that he used to listen to all the time. So I would buy it.
You know what a fun story about Woolworth in Berlin is? It's because that's one of those names that old school Germans couldn't speak out.
Okay.
So it's called Woolworth.
Well, it was a German guy, a German American guy.
Or you go to Wulle.
Oh God. Wow.
Really?
Yeah, I could see kind of how that would be a little hard one, but
Yeah, the TH and stuff, but still, because this generation we're talking about, the boomers, they didn't have English nowhere.
Right.
It's just after the World War on the radio, it was all on songs, but they never spoke to any. Even when the GIs were here as the allies, there's still nobody was talking to them much. They had their own areas where they stayed, of with their own, the PX, the post exchange, where you could buy the stuff.
Right.
But you couldn't buy it. They could with an American ID.
Right.
So the same, and they had their own cinemas and sports stadiums, everything.
Yeah, over at Tempelhof.
Yeah, right. It's all this area.
Yeah.
This is where they had the area. They're strip kind of,
Okay.
with clubs and concert halls. But they lived in Zehlendorf, this is south, like near the Grunewald.
Okay. Yeah.
Close there, like really south, almost on the border, southwest.
Okay.
That's where Oscar Lehheim stuff. That's all like where the
I know most of
Americans.
y'all don't even know what we're talking about. Some of the
That's
areas in
true.
Germany, but
That's
but
true.
this is what it is.
Yeah, that's you are here now in Berlin, and
Yeah, exactly. I'm a
and a little
Berliner
bit
now.
and a little bit history from American history in Berlin you should know.
Yeah, exactly.
That actually was one nice thing. What I mean, there was the John F. Kennedy School, the JFK School. That was where usually Americans and Germans who had like more privileged, or more money people, they could send their kids there to bilingual.
Okay.
So then and there was of course American school too. I can't remember the name. That's just only for the U.S. people.
Okay.
But the JFK was the mix, like somehow bringing the cultures together. In the end, all the Germans became kind of Americans by behavior. But
Right.
you know how it is.
It rubs off. It rubs off,
Of
man.
course. So stuff like that happened. And then there was what I remember well when I was a kid at the airport, Tempelhof here.
Yeah.
And that was where really like the army base was there with everything. But they had also like the old racing bombers from the air bridge and stuff like that.
Okay.
But they had all like the M16s. They had everything there. It was an army base. It was nothing army.
They had a disco club there too, right?
Yeah, a few ones. The Silver Wings is still there, and the La Boom was where the Terror Act was in '86.
Yeah, I remember walking past it, and I was like, "Oh shit! Okay, there was a disco club here. Okay, not bad."
Yeah, they had all of that, especially for them. And then they had the open day, where everybody could visit the airport.
Okay.
And then all the Americans, like the GIs, showed all their stuff. You could drive around with a tank. You could practice parachuting. You could putting M16 out and together. You get American ice cream. That was my youth when I was a kid with 10 or something.
Wow.
Like 9, 10, 11, like that.
Wow. Okay.
They had it every year. It was super, super crazy. It was a special day somehow because nowhere you could see stuff like that.
Yeah.
Even not the French or like the
the
UK
French
people never
section,
did that.
Yeah, they never.
Just Americans because they are like they're entertainment people. Okay, back to the States.
States, yeah,
You're
yeah.
still in Boston.
Yeah. So Boston, what else you need?
So how? I mean, okay, you grew up already with jazz and disco and soul, but you also was at an age where hip hop became big, and that somehow affected you too.
Yeah. So I, like I remember like being on the school bus, with a bunch of my friends, and the school bus driver, he was playing the radio, and the local radio station was for those people who listen from Boston, it was WILD. It was an AM station, not even an FM. And one day they were playing The Message on the radio, and we all stopped, like we literally stopped talking about what we were talking about, and we were all listening because. I mean, I grew up in the projects in Boston. I grew up, not for nothing poor. So what Melly Mel was talking about, we were all like, yeah, that's right. Like, you got roaches in the, and rats in the, and all this other shit that we had to deal with all the time. And it just spoke to us in the music too, because a lot of it, was, if it wasn't disco being
it's
replayed,
like slow disco kind of.
Yeah, exactly. So it already spoke to us because we had already grown up on that kind of music anyway. So that was my education. And then when sampling came along, then I'm like, wait a minute, that's my father's record. That's my brother's record. I know these records because I'm hearing Peter Piper and I'm hearing like Bob James and all this other stuff. And it just set me on a path that when I went to I remember going to the first record store, this record store called Mystery Train Records in Boston. And I didn't even know what I was doing, but I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start at Z. And we better go ahead and go all the way to A and just dig through everything. And I just went through stuff that either I knew from like my photographic memory, or I would just look at stuff and like, oh, this is cool, And I just bought a lot of stuff, man. And, when you're starting out collecting, like that, you buy a lot of stuff that's probably not worth it to you later on, but at the same time I bought a lot of good stuff not even knowing it was that great. Just you learn, because I didn't have anybody like today. You can look online and okay, here's a list of people who have certain records or whatever, and you can tell what's rare and what's not. No, I didn't have it at.
No, there were lists, but there were older people who had lists.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't. I wouldn't even have known about that stuff.
I was lucky you find something that I liked.
Yeah, exactly. And At the time, I mean, for me, $5 was a lot of money to pay for records. So I was like, $1.50, maybe $5 if it was like so incredible. Those
Yeah,
days are
we
way
had US
gone.
import prices. That was like more like 17,
Mm.
which means okay, a dollar price it was maybe then 8 or something like that, 8, 9, an album for like 15, 17 dollars at this time. Dollar was 3.5 of a Deutschmark.
Wow. Yeah, I can only imagine.
So that's your $5 was here like
10,
yeah, yeah.
15. Wow. Yeah, that had
That's
to be
it.
crazy.
Also was crazy. You never bought doubles or, but there were people who were like crazy on it again. A little bit older ones. They collected kind of like mad. They had their own shelves in some stores already, like the
wow.
typical back shelves for
Yeah,
reserved for
just
DJs and
DJs,
stuff. Yeah, stuff
with
like
the
that
name
happened
on it and
already.
stuff like that, yeah.
And they imported on their own, I think, to some of them. There were some privileged people who went out over for 1 year to a high school year to the States and stuff.
Okay.
So stuff like that, they brought stuff
Stuff
back.
back, yeah,
And
I'm
they had
sure.
knowledge about what happened there and how things happened.
They probably went to some hip hop jams or some
Yeah,
jams or
yeah, all
whatever.
that too, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
that's all were influences back then here, yeah. So, but at one point you decided Boston was too small for you.
Yeah, because it's just like, you can only do so much in Boston. And I also, the real reason why I moved to New York is because I got accepted into grad school. So I was in a PhD program, and I moved together with two other guys from the Vinyl Reanimators, Sean C. and DJ Shame. And we all moved to Brooklyn with like 2 huge trucks of records and a little bit of furniture. But all of our records, man, it was
Crazy.
like mad records in the house. And I'm, in my room trying to study, and they're in there in the other room with Stretch Armstrong would come by and Eclipse and all these other people. And then, they recorded the first Elder Head Toucher 12-inch there. The Edo G EP, Acton was recorded there. El Fudge, What If 12-inch. My roommate Sean C produced that. That was in his room. And I'm listening to them banging out beats, and to the point where I was like, you know what? I don't want to do grad school anymore. So I dropped out. My parents were pissed because I was the first one to go to college. And they were thinking that, okay, you're going to, be successful in that way. But music always spoke to me, and I just followed that path, So that's what happened to me.
That's why you always followed your heart.
Yeah, you just got to follow your heart sometimes, man,
Or just sliding into cold water and that's it.
Yeah, test it out, stick a toe in and see what happens, you know what I mean?
And falling in, that's happening sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all a matter of decisions too. You don't think at this age too far.
No. You don't think about tomorrow. You just think about right now,
Yeah,
That's
interesting.
what it was.
So you used to live in Brooklyn from the very beginning, then in New York.
Yeah. So I lived in the area Park Slope, what they used to call Dark Slope, because it was crazy back then. And then when I moved out 3 years later, I moved to Harlem with another friend of mine. And then from Harlem, I moved real quick to Crown Heights, which was like, at the time, Crown Heights was wild. It was like shootings, everything. And then after that, I decided to I'm going to just live by myself. So I lived in the Bronx for about 5 years, Northwest Bronx. And then after that, I moved to Brooklyn, back again. And after that, I moved in with my ex to Bed-Stuy, and we were there for almost like 10 years, you know what I mean? So that, and before I came here. So I lived in East Harlem at one point in time, which was, mostly Puerto Rican. I lived on Tito Puente Way. Every street back then was named after some, Joe Cuba or Joe Baton. They were all named after all the legends and stuff like that. So that was like a good education. I would always see like the Puerto Rican Day Parade coming right past my house all the time. So I miss New York. It gave me I feel like I grew up in Boston, but I became an adult in New York because I spent almost 25 years there, of my life. And I became an adult. I learned a lot there besides just records and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So.
But New York is tough to survive. It's expensive. What you did?
Oh man, I had to
After the dropout.
Dude, I had to have hustle after hustle after hustle after hustle, man. It was like, You know, so what I did is that my roommates were like, hey, we just did this Elder Head Toucher 12-inch, and there's this company called Fat Beats Distribution. They need a salesperson. You need to get a job because you need to pay rent. So I was like, all right, I did an interview with them. And at the time, Fat Beats, all those records, like all the J Live records and all the other big underground cats that are big now, they only really sold in Europe and Japan. They weren't really selling in America. So they brought me in to try to open up American sales. I had never done sales in my life, but I knew the music. So they hired me, and I just I hit the ground running. Like, I started, really doing well there. I became, like, the salesperson of the week and then the month. And then after about, 2 years, the guy who kind of, his name is Rich King. Shouts to Rich King if you're listening. He became, the guy there. And then when he decided to leave, he passed it on to me. So in 99, 2 years after I started, I became that dude that decided we're going to press your record or not. And I was the head of sales. So I had a sales staff that I was like, okay, we need to sell here. You know what I mean? So I was like the guy there. And that was a new position for me because you're in a position where you need to say yes or no to people. So I'm saying yes or no to people that, who could fuck you up. You know what I'm saying? Who could fuck you up easily.
Absolutely.
But I never had a problem with anybody. You know what I mean? And that's why to this day, like Lord Finesse and Pete Rock and Showbiz and all of them, like if I see them, it's all love. Because they always trusted me. I never had a problem with them. I always told them the truth. And we did good things together. We did good records together. And so that's how I survived in New York. And speaking of which.
Speaking of Showbiz and AG.
Yes.
We have to play a record in between to get some music going on.
Yeah, man.
And tell us about.
So this record is probably one of the most successful Fat Beats records. I don't know if you could see this. The Full Scale EP. Right here. This was, I think, in 1998, I believe, if I want to say it correctly. Yeah, 1998, DITC Records, man. This record we did so well with, you know what I mean? It's like first of all, Show is one of the most incredible producers you can imagine, man, from DITC. AG is one of the most incredible lyricists. But they also had KRS-One and Big Pun on this record, you know what I mean? It just was one of those records that, first of all, I paid a lot of rent off of this, and I bought a lot of great rare records off of this because we made so much money off of this record, man. And if you don't know this record, look it up, see if you can find it.
Let's take a listen.
Wednesdays on Wax.
Cause we make beats and flow a lot, hoping not, won't hesitate to throw a shot, smoke the chalk, so get low. When we drop, be spraying the whole block, blazing so hot. Come on, let them know it's us when we come on. Showing A, so come wrong and get dumped on. Back to these beats though, hey yo, I'm feeling it. Niggas off the wall, freaks start revealing shit. Know exactly what we dealing with. See my team, got Shorty in the middle, yo, they killing it. All night, weed so tight, got me so right. Inhale it and hold it. Like a whole mics, can't afford no strikes, can't stand police. So give us 1 plus 4 mics. Yo, we no slouch, more stripes than half of you know about. We will prevail, full scale, no doubt.
This is for all of y'all, and you won't regret. So bump it in the Jeeps, the streets, so only y'all can flex. In the crib, in the whooping, it's the same effect. We gonna show you how we do when we great minds connect.
We draw heat when they think it's sweet, and joke a lot. Front on the crabs that front. Y'all know it's hot, mad cause of the hoes we got, and frozen rock. Obviously, it gotta be, the flow is hot, come on, let them know it's us when we come on, showing A, we even shine when the sun is gone, I get mine, even when I'm being fronted on, 1 deep, 1 rhyme, you could be 100 strong, who want it, and get it, like flight 800, I'm on my own dick, like sleeping on my stomach. Seeing when I'm blunted, we can even run it. And packs more raw shit than most of you come with. Now we can go pop and gain nothing from it. Now it's me and you came with 100. Go mainstream and get the cream heavily. That's what you say, but I say never me. GD repping me while show dissect the beat. Shit is still real, full skill is the recipe.
This is for all of y'all, and you won't regret. So bump it in the Jeeps, the streets, so all of y'all can flex. In the crib, in the Walkman, it's the same effect. We gonna show you how we do when we great minds connect.
Wednesdays on Wax.
So,
Yeah.
classic material,
Yeah, man.
for sure.
Yeah, that was that was kind of like in the golden age of fat beats, man. You know what I mean? Like it was one of those times where like everything I felt like we were putting out was like gold. We had the gold standard on everything that we were putting out, man. And not for nothing, also we were the exclusive distributor for Raucous. So from like the early on, from like Sir Menelik, Physical Jews, Shabam Sadiq, all those records, all the way up to the first Jurassic 5 LP on Raucous, we did all of those records. We were the ones that were spreading those records around the world. So we had that plus our own catalog. So we were just like sitting on the top of the mountain of independent world. And and I was, as a young kid, I was still in my my late 20s, being the guy that was like, everybody's coming to you, sending you the demos, you know what I mean? And you'd be out and people would be like, yo, here's my demo, can I want to get put on, and, I want to put stuff out, and a lot of times I had to say no, because at Fat Beats, we had kind of like a strict policy of just being like real about quality, but at the same time, you would get this thing where people would call you a hater.
Because the typical thing that people coming in and, why you hate me? What I did wrong to you? Why you don't like my shit?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, because a lot of people would be like, yo, like, if you don't put out that stuff, they feel like you're destroying their life. And I'm like, I'm not trying to do any of that. I'm just trying to get you to be better. You know what I mean? But then it was also parts where, like, we would have dudes who were drug dealers, who were, cats in the street that were trying to launder their money, wash their money. So they would come to you with singles, and I remember being like offered, like, I'll give you a night free with this whore if you take in my 12-inch. You know what I mean? Like it was shit like that. People can't even realize. I never
Sending the posse in.
Yeah, like I never partook in that, because I'm like, once you go down that road, then they own you. You know what I mean? They own you because they know they can get you, and I'm like, nah, that's not happening. So. It was a real education for me, man, but I had a lot of fun.
How many years you were at Fat Beats?
8 years, from 97 to 2005.
And you even became the vice president, right?
Yeah, I was a vice president,
crazy.
like the last 3 years before I left. I was a VP, man. So, I mean, yeah, man. I mean, that's how I know a lot of different people from, like, Frank and Groove Attack, all those cats, people
Demi.
from all the, Demi, exactly.
Fat Beats Amsterdam.
Yeah, Fat Beats Amsterdam. Peace. What's up, Demi?
He's not in here, but he probably would love to hear that.
Yeah, no, I'm sure he would.
He is. He's a good guy.
Yeah, no doubt.
We love him. He's one of our brothers, right?
Yeah, for real, for real.
So, interesting part is that you are still haven't met. No, I mean, okay, after Fat Beats, yes, but I guess during the times at Fat Beats, you just met Con, right?
No, so let me back up. So, I just want to say rest in peace to Tame One from the Artifacts, and the only reason why I'm saying that is because before I actually started working at Fat Beats, I was an intern at Big Beat, their record label. So I would see Tame and Elliot all the time in the office. And also K-Def and I forgot his partner's name, Larry O.
Yeah.
I used to see them all the time, because it was a small office. So you would see the artists all the time coming through. So I was there first. And then one time I was up in Boston at a friend's record shop, and I was giving out promos from Big Beat to my friend, and we were talking about, like, mixtape DJs, all they do is talk on the record and blah blah blah. And Khan was there, and he overheard me, and he was like, yeah, you're right, and he started chiming in on the conversation, and we got cool. And I was like, yo, I'm about to leave. My friend, she's driving. Do you need a ride home? So he gets in the car, and this is back in the days when you had a cassette deck in the car. So as soon as you turn on the car, the cassette would automatically go in and start playing music. And I had a tape of breaks. He was like, yo, that's Malatu Ethiopia. yo, you in the records? And I was like, how do you know that record? You in the records? And so that's how we got cool. And we started making tapes for each other. And then one day I was like, yo, man, we should just make one together and see how it goes. And then hence On Track.
Hands on track. Whee!
Boom.
There we go with the first.
1997.
And it looks like, I don't know, is this a bootleg or you really did it with this tapes?
No, I did them with those tapes because
Really?
Because I dubbed them on a double cassette deck and I would dub
like really did
100.
those times. Okay.
Yeah.
Crazy, got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really like copy shop level.
Yeah. I was poor back
Yeah,
then,
yeah,
but
yeah.
you know, I was like,
You
fuck
see,
it.
the cutting is still a white line.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is like true artist shit. Like you got to just get it done. And I would walk around with a backpack of those tapes
To Times Square.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
everywhere. And like I remember going into A1 Records in New York, and I was in there one day, and I'm listening to records, then I see Pete Rock come in, and I'm like, oh shit, that's Pete Rock. So I was like, yo, I need to give him a tape, and I was mad nervous, and then I was like, you know what? As I was walking out, I gave him, I just tapped him on the shoulder, and I was like, yo, look, man, I'm sorry, man. I don't want to disturb you. I know you're listening to records. But here's a tape that me and my friend made of samples of our favorite samples. A lot of them are of your stuff on there. If you take a listen to it, you know, let me know what you think. Now, you don't have the one where I wrote a number on it.
No.
Where I wrote, it, you know, back.
I mean, I'm wondering where I have it from. It can't be just. I would say I ordered a turntable lab, maybe.
Probably, yeah, probably. But, you know, back in the days, I used to write my pager number. Now, for those people that know, pager number. This is before I had a cell phone number. So you had to page me. So one day I'm in my office at Fat Beats. 2 weeks later, I forgot that I had met Pete Rock. And I get a text from somebody and they're like, yo, what's up? This is Pete. It's Amir. And I'm like, who's Pete? Because I'm not thinking it's Pete Rock. So I call the number and he was like, and he has a very distinct voice, as you probably know by now. So I was like, oh shit, and I like put him on hold and I told the office, I was like, yo, I got Pete Rock on the phone. And I got back on the phone, we're mad cool. And I was like, yo, what's up? And he was like, yo, son, this tape is ill. Yo, we should go record shopping. I'm like, the fuck? I'm going record shopping with Pete Rock? And we just got cool after that. You know what I mean? And it was just one of those things where I was, I always carried that backpack of tapes because you never know who you run into. And I would always go to different stores and be like, yo, here's a tape. You know, I was just hustling. You know,
Crazy.
Like we always do.
I mean, to be honest, at this times, it was possible to survive on selling mixtapes.
Yeah.
I mean, Tape Kings became big at around this time.
Oh, yeah.
For example.
Oh, yeah.
They made it like really scaling it up.
Oh, yeah. I met those guys, Ian and Steve, man. They were Englishmen, and they lived not that far from me in Brooklyn, man. And, you know, they were doing all kind of stuff back in the days. I mean, they would sell tapes uptown, everywhere. You know, they had a distinct logo, Tape Kings, with that little black logo thing. So, I mean, that's what I was doing, man. And you just never know. And then when the second tape came around is when Fat Beats started pressing them for us. Because I got tired of pressing them, you know, myself.
Yeah.
And this time, I decided to, like, really play it for the owner. So one day, like, the intro, if you know the intro to On Track Volume 2, the big single at the time was The Enemy. Big L and all that other stuff. And the sample, like, what would you do? If it, you know, I can't remember the exact wording of it. But I had the samples for that. So I had Khan cut in, what would you do? And the owner came running out of his office when he heard the tape. He was like, yo, what is that? I was like, that's the new On Track. He was like, what are you doing with that? I was like, I was hoping you would press it. He was like, yeah, we're press. So from then on, he started pressing it. And, you know, like, because I worked at Fat Beats, peace to Dean 5 that, you know, he did all of that graphics for us back in the days. You know, a graffiti writer from Boston, one of our homies. And, you know, because, you know, like all the producers like Vic Padilla and all the Red Godfather now, all of them used to come to the office and they would play like stuff that we would eventually put out. And I would get to know the sample before anybody else. So by the time On Track came out, I would time it so that it would come out at the same time as those songs. So people would be like, well, how the fuck are y'all getting all these samples and knowing this shit? Just because I had an advantage of working at Fat Beats. I had to be smart about it. You know what I mean?
So volume 3,
yeah.
I mean, that's like, but on tape it's just 4, right?
Yeah, just 4, and then we switched to CDs because cassettes weren't really
That's why
selling
I just
anymore.
have the 4. I just was wondering. But you
Oh,
made
yeah,
it
the
even.
double.
The double one is the 4.
Yeah, it's like 2 hours, and there's a lot of stuff on there that, like,
Yeah.
just ill. This is when I really got into like European stuff. A lot of European breaks, sound libraries.
You know who was really early with that? I mean, but of course, but Danny Dan the Beatman.
Oh yeah.
He was
he's
super
early with that stuff. Yeah.
And he told me his trick was he collected also lists with all this rare, obscure Euro and library stuff. And he sent it over to his friends in the army in Europe. And they went to the record stores and dug the stuff out for him. That's why he had it, to get it sent back to New York. And everybody was like, where you got this from?
Well, also, me and Danny Dan used to work at A1 together back in 98. And the guy who was running A1 at the time, Aldo, and this other cat, a friend of mine named Roman, they would have their French collectors come in. And so when me and Danny would work at the store, we would get all like, this is before anybody in America really knew Cortex, Harlem, the Harlem Pop Trotters, any of those sound libraries. We were getting all those records early. They wouldn't even make it to the shelf. We would buy them and take them for ourselves.
Crazy.
So like we just had all of that shit, So man, it was good times back then, man. Good times. That's all I can tell you, man.
It's interesting because they came also around the same time like the DJ Muro tapes.
Muro was actually before me and Khan.
Yeah. All right.
He was the king of digging stuff was like because we started carrying. See, this is the other thing. One of the reasons why I decided we need to do on tracks because I started hearing the Muro tapes because Fat Beats was carrying them. Mm-hmm. And I was like, who's this dude calling himself the king of digging? Nobody's the king of digging. So it's kind of like a little little beef thing, but it wasn't really because Muro's our man. But we decided like
you can be mad at Japanese anyways.
yeah, exactly. So I was just kind of like, yo, we can do this too. So that's how that started.
Absolute. Danny Dan doesn't get enough flowers. Little breaks for days.
Yeah, man.
He's always releasing. Still till today. He's releasing. He's releasing Dusty Fingers, like digitally. I think he's on number 67 or something like that.
67.
Yeah, it's crazy. It was
Man, we used to buy those at Fappy's in the days. He used to come in with a truckload of those, man. And we used to just buy them and then always keep selling them, man. I forgot his partner's name. He had a partner, big dude. He was like tall as me, but he was like 3 times as me. Mm-hmm. And he was the one that was like ripping all the stuff. I think Danny was the one with the records, but he was the one that was like really ripping all the stuff and cleaning it up.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're not partners anymore. Is that Florian? Yeah, that's Florian Keller. What's up, Florian?
Florian Keller's in there, nice. And DJ Not Easy and Triple D.
That's what's up. Florian's another old school homie too, man.
Nicholas.
But yeah, man, Schoolyard Breaks too. Yeah, all of that stuff, man. Strictly Breaks. Yeah, I mean, Danny's my homeboy. Like when he used to DJ at this spot called Mecca in Manhattan, right? Not that far from A1. I used to spend there too. It was like a really good soul food restaurant, and they would have DJs there and stuff like that. So we go back, man. I'm not from New York, but I felt like very at home there because of people like Danny.
Yeah, he's very warm-hearted. I visited him once in the Bronx, and I was really surprised how he's putting those compilations together. He got kind of like a gaming PC there, and then like crazy small but very loud and effective speakers. It was kind of weird to see with such a home setup, but still it was already this typical pumping Schoolyard Break sound, like the really almost overmastered, but still on the right spot.
Right.
That is working really well and on PAs. Pretty interesting to see this.
Word.
But he always was broke, I think. Something went wrong when I think it stopped. There was still a vinyl meltdown at one point.
Yeah.
And I think that was when he went down too. Because nowadays it should be, I think he could even re-release Dusty Fingers.
Probably. I mean, I don't know, Danny. If you're listening, you should think about it.
Yeah, I want to have him here too. But we haven't spoken since, it was somewhere in the pandemic, of course.
Okay.
He didn't have equipment, and we had to talk about what he needs to go on and all that. And he's not the biggest technician. I mean, he's good. He's good on his remastering and editing.
Right.
And but yeah, streaming is it's a science unto its own.
Beast, man.
Yeah. So let's listen to one of the tracks. It was probably on the 4th on track.
Oh yeah.
One of the rare Euro stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Don't whack.
Wednesdays on Wax.
Yes, what was that? Space Career by Mrs. Beastly. That's like a German prog rock, krautrock, rock, jazz influence, whatever, everything goes record.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a good one, man, if you can get it. I don't even know if is this rare these days? I don't know.
It always was like on the same scale of rareness, I guess.
Okay.
It's around, depending on a condition, but yeah, it should be between 25 to 50.
Okay.
Depending on, yeah.
Okay. That's what's up. Yeah.
But did anybody sample that? I was always
it was
ask myself.
AG.
AG did
Yeah,
it.
it was AG. I can't remember for what song, but it was a AG sample.
All right.
Maybe Finesse did the beat. I'm not sure. But it was like late 90s, early 2000s kind of thing.
Yeah,
It was always one of my favorites. I was like, I always got to put something from DITC on one of the tapes, because they're one of my favorite, production.
I mean, it always sounded like DITC typical sample, of course.
Yeah, no doubt.
You ever went to the what was it, Roosevelt Hotel?
Man, I used to go to the Roosevelt. I used to go to the Mark Ballroom, the New Yorker, like all
Okay.
of those places, man. I mean, I got cool with Prince B from PM Dawn, man, because he was notorious at the shows because at the time that whatever the big song he had, was such a big song, he made a lot of money, but he spent most of that money on records. Like he had all the rare records. Everybody from Diamond, Pete Rock, everybody was salty because he was buying all the rare records, and they're like, "Yo, your beats ain't even that great, but you buying all this shit," and they're like, everybody else wanted them. But you used to see, like, I remember the first time I went, a friend of mine from Boston, this guy named Boston Bob, who people may know, Bob Gibson. He had the stupidest record collection you could ever imagine. He ended up selling it to Ubiquity about 10 years ago. I think they paid like $100,000 for that collection. And they let only like Cut Chemist and a bunch of other people go through it. You know what I mean? But he had everything. I used to go to the record shows with him, and I would help him carry records in, and I help him sell records, and he would give me records, rare records, just for that. But I remember Diamond coming up, buying records, and Pete Rock, and I'm like, oh shit, like, as we're hip hop heads, you know what I mean? So you seeing your hip hop heroes, like, and you interacting with them, that was a special thing, man. So yeah, I was always there, man. This is before there was like a eBay, Discogs, and all that other shit. You had to go either to a record store or wherever, or you went to a record show like that. And that's how you got records.
But those sellers, where they got all that from?
Oh man, I mean, the sellers also were super crazy personalities, man. Some of them were really weird. Like there was one guy named Stinky Steve, right? Because he smelled like piss all the time, or like he shit his pants.
Wow.
But he had crazy records. And then there was another dude who I think he used to be in the Black Panthers. So he had all the ill spiritual jazz records that everybody's like really into, like black jazz and Strata Eats and all that. He had all of those records sealed.
Wow.
Which, like now people would be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But so you had different personalities and you had all these different people there. But I think a lot of these people, once hip hop started sampling certain records, especially like Tribe Called Quest, like Eugene McDaniels and all that stuff, those collectors were like, oh, okay, I heard these records are like worth something. So then they started going and finding stuff that was even more rare and coming to the shows. Because some of those records I saw at those record shows, I've never seen again. Not even on Discogs or anything. Like,
wow.
So, there's still a lot of records out there. I mean, they're probably in Japan because Japan has everything. And multiple copies. You go in the store and they're like, oh, I want the Sounds of the City or Sounds of the Experience record. Oh, you want that? They'll pull out like this much copies, sealed, and it'll be like 500 euros each. And they don't negotiate on prices.
Yeah, I know. They don't do that, no.
So
Little Dave, Stinky Steve from Philly.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, that's the one.
Somebody. Oh, yeah, Stinky Steve from Philly, man. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, he would, and he used to come into A1 and he would and I used to negotiate with him and I always have to be like, oh man, hold my nose. Because, it was hard talking to him because he literally smelled like he shit in his pants.
Wow.
You know
but
what
you
I mean?
still want to look into this crate.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, I'll just suck it up and just go through it.
Wow.
But me and Danny Dan, we always found good stuff out of his crates, man. So we put up with his bullshit.
Wow.
So,
but you still left Fat Beats after 8 years?
Yeah, I left Fat Beats after 8 years. Because you know what? Honestly, man, towards the end, I got more crappy demos than I got good demos. And I felt like independent hip hop became a parody of itself.
Okay.
You know what I mean? People were just, because, because of technology, everybody was trying to make records out of their house. And a lot of people weren't making good records, even though they thought they were. And I just felt burnt out. You know what I mean? So I left for a year. And then before I actually joined and started running Wax Poetics Records, I was running ABB distribution out of my house in Brooklyn. So I was remote before there was such a thing as remote. This is like in 2006. So I was running in Benny B's distribution. I would come out to Oakland every once in a while to meet with them. And, we did the Little Brother record. We did, for those who are house heads, we did the first, like Pev and Everett records back then. We were obviously doing the Dilated records. And there was somebody else that was on, Mark the Clive Lowe. His first record was on ABB. I remember the person, Diane, who was running promotions for us at the time. She was trying to convince Mark to DJ back then. He didn't even want to DJ. He was like, oh my God, now he's like a big DJ and a musician. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is like crazy back in the days. So, after I left ABB, because me and Benny, you should never mix friends in business, put it that way.
All right.
But then I got the opportunity to run on Wax Poetics label. When they first started it, Andre, one of the original owners, was like, man, I always wanted you to like run Wax Poetics. And I'm just going to give you your audience a quick, little brief history. So when Wax Poetics first started, Andre came to me before they even started, and he had a proposal for the magazine. And he came and he was like, look, I have this magazine called Wax Poetics that I wanted to produce and put out. Here's a little proposal, like a little description of it. What do you think? Now, at the time, there was Big Daddy. I don't know if you remember Big Daddy magazine, Fat Lace and all of them. They were kind of like the Wax Poetics before Wax Poetics because they were doing stuff like that.
Especially Big Daddy.
Yeah,
it was kind of like big digging culture influence.
Yeah, exactly. But to import that into America was expensive for me. So I was like, I didn't take that many. So I'm seeing this magazine, and I'm like, okay, cool, I'll take it. And I didn't even know how much to take. I was like, I'll take 500. Years later, when I became the president or the label manager of Wax Poetics, Andre was like, yo, when you told us that you wanted to order 500 copies of the magazine, we all went out and popped bottles of Moet because we were like, yes, we made it. And so, I was the first one to give them that chance, like, and we spread the magazine to everywhere, you know what I mean? So I started running Wax Poetics Records, and we did the East of Underground record, which was a record made here in Germany by some U.S. Army men.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a U.S. Army contest with a bunch of bands, in the Army that, whoever won could put out a record. And that's what East of Underground was, a group that, that won that whole thing. And so, like we put that out first. I had to negotiate with the U.S. Army to put that record out.
Really?
Yeah. They didn't have the master for it, so they delivered a vinyl copy to us, and we just remastered it from that. And then after that, we did like the Moments records, which featured Larry and Fonz Mazel. I got to meet them, both of them, because we brought them out to do a party with us, and we did a bunch of other records with them. So, and then after I left Wax Poetics is when I started my label, 180 Proof Records.
180 Proof. The meaning of the name is clear for hardcore diggers.
Yeah, it's just 180 gram vinyl, just to flip on that. You know what I mean? High quality. That's what I wanted my records to be, is high quality. Both music and aesthetic wise.
But the idea for 180 Proof, you had needed the content for that. That came from other sources, like there's something happened.
Yeah. I mean, just like, it came from like for instance, when I was at Wax Poetics, we reissued the Lyman Woodard album, Saturday Night Special, right? I went out to Detroit. I met Lyman. I took him to dinner. I met his son and everything else. Right. And we reissued that record. And I wanted to like reissue all the other records through Wax Poetics, but they weren't interested. And then that's when I was like, man, fuck this. I'm leaving. And I started my label with Strata. That's how I really started it. I was like, if I'm gonna start it, I'm gonna start it with a bang. Because I knew no one knew how to get a hold of someone from Strata. You know what I mean? And I knew and so I remember when I first I text Giles Peterson, and I was like, yo, Giles, guess what? I said, I have the rights to Strata Records. He was like, Strata East. I was like, nah, because everybody gets confused.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. I guess our viewers too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we have really get down a little bit into the history of Strata Records.
Yeah.
Strata East is just an offspring from a few guys from this label in New York.
Yeah, exactly.
That came later when Strata Records was basically done at this point already.
Yeah, exactly. Strata Records, didn't last that long. They only put out 6 records, but they made a bunch of music that never came out. So I've been busy reissuing or putting out for the first time a lot of stuff that never came out. But he was like, oh my God, really? It's like, because, and people didn't know what was in it. I mean, I got all these masters from the owner, and the only way I could find out what was on them is you have to transfer those, reel-to-reel tapes. And you got to pay for that.
Yeah, it costs money.
It costs
Especially
money.
with those old tapes.
Yeah, you don't know if they're going to
Special
be good or not.
treatments.
Yeah. And so a lot of times, there were some masters that weren't good, but I still had to pay for it. So I lost a lot of money too. But at the end of the day, I wanted to do this because it was something that I love. You know what I mean? So basically, that's really how I started my label, 180 Proof, is with Strata.
What's interesting on this is too that it's not just reissuing stuff that happened already, those 6 albums. There's a bunch of other albums lying around, lots of songs. And there's where you got all the infos about the artists or photographies or whatever. Guess that's a big part of the whole work.
Yeah, because a lot of the records didn't have artwork. The masters didn't have any names of the musicians on it, names of the songs. So it's like you got to do a lot of research. I had my designer back in the days. We would sit there and come up with concepts of for the covers based on photo. Now the photographs wasn't so hard because I knew Lenny Sinclair. For those people from Detroit, you know who Lenny Sinclair is. She's actually German. She grew up in which is now Kronosberg.
Kreuzberg, yeah.
Yeah, which is way up north, but she escaped in '56 and moved to Detroit, and she's a famous photographer. The Fela photo with the white stripes on him when he's got his. She took that photo and a bunch of other stuff, but she was the photographer for Strata, so she had all the photographs. So, a lot of times, for instance, the Sam Sanders record, we just took that photograph and flipped it, and I had to do research on who was on the record with the names of the songs. You know what I mean? It's not easy doing this work. You know what I mean? People think it is, but it's not.
So how you came up with all the masters for Strata?
So okay.
I mean, it's the label's from Detroit.
Yep.
It's it has a founder and an owner to it. Not at this point anymore.
Yeah.
So, but how does happen that you get access to a whole catalog that nobody thought about that it existed
Well,
before?
So back in the days, there was a company called Scion, which was owned by Toyota. It was like a
Okay.
it's kind of, they used to do what Red Bull used to do, the cultural events. So a friend of mine was a head of the cultural department, and they started this thing called the Scion IQ Museum, and they wanted to create this online museum of different music from the past. So they asked me to do something on Strata. So they paid me and a film crew to come to Detroit. Somehow I got through Lyman before he passed. I got a hold of the owner, and I said, I'm coming out to Detroit. Can you put together some people from Strata so I can tell the story of Strata in this film documentary? And that's how so when I got to the house, because she brought all the masters upstairs, and I took a chance, and I said to myself, I said to her, Barbara, would you ever think about doing a license deal for the Strata catalog? And she was like, yeah, okay, yeah. She just was like, no one had ever asked her.
That's what I mean. Nobody thought about it.
Nobody thought about it. And so I took the chance while I had it, when I was right in front of her, and was like, yo, can we do this? And that's how it really started. I came back to Detroit during the summer, and I took the Amtrak out there, and I came back with a whole suitcase full of masters. And it was only what I could carry, you know what I mean? And then that's when I started, reissuing the catalog.
crazy enough that you carried it in a suitcase on
Yeah,
an
I was
M-track.
really, I was broke, you know what I mean? But I wanted to make it happen, you know what I mean?
Let's listen to some of this OG releases.
You have the. Let me see. What do we have here?
Oh, you know.
Well, we have this one right here. We can probably listen to like Sam Sanders.
All right. Put it on.
Wednesdays on Wax.
Face at my window, please won't you go away? Why do you haunt me when you're lost in yesterday? Face at my window, staring at me through the night, with eyes black as coal and a look of pain and pride. Face at my window. Face at my window. Face at my window. It seems I can't escape your mind. Every time I try, I look and you're not too far behind me. Face at my window. Please tell me what can I do to be free of the kids so fine that have long been buried with you. You. Face at my window. 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 I've been running for many years, running from that kid so fine that have brought me many tears. Face at my window. I told you time and time again to go back to your bed so cold that have long been buried with you. Face at my window. Face at my window.
Wednesdays on Wax.
Beautiful.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, that was one of the favorite songs off the album, Sam Sanders' "Mirror Mirror," and that's not even the name of the album. I don't even know if it was a name for the album. It was an album. It was actually a demo from Sam Sanders that I found in the stack of masters, and we just made the artwork out of nowhere. I had to research the record. I was telling Mark that the singer on this, she was a person I couldn't find out her name. We still don't know her name. It was this. Apparently, she was just the woman that was in the studio, and they were like, "Hey, you want to sing on this?" She was like, "Yeah," and they never got a name, And
That's
this
so
record,
weird.
because it wasn't supposed to come out back then, they probably didn't even care.
Yeah, like I suggested, it's like probably from the neighborhood, recorded, put into the shelf,
Yep.
and that was it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy.
Word.
So you did the first releases already, like like first time releases of those rare material.
Yeah.
But it wasn't working out that crazy like you would have hoped for.
No. I mean, you sell them, but I haven't really made any money off my label, and I've had it for 10 years now. But it's just like I'm doing it just for the love of it, honestly. For the music. This music needs to be heard, but I haven't made any money off of this. Enough money to say I can go out and buy a house or something. I mean, I made money to like pay rent here and there, but like not real money. I can pay the owner. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's tough. It's very niche too. Even if I think especially those high class and jazz. And I mean, there's lots of a new movement, the neo jazz, what's coming out of UK right now, and even also worldwide, a lot of from the States too.
Right.
And there's a niche market which is growing right now for this. But yeah, you started early. Like you was always the early bird. And
I was too early for my own good, man. Oh well.
So you came up with an idea that you bred here in Berlin when you stayed here and found out it's pretty tough with this label and the gigs not paying too well in the same with all those needs, even if you are spinning a lot of disco stuff, like a rare disco, of course, but it's tough to survive on good music nowadays. And that's for a while already. It used to be way better, like, I don't know, until maybe like 15 years ago or 12, something like that.
Yeah.
So somehow something changed with the new people that's coming up and going out.
Right.
Something like that. It's hard to explain. It's an own discussion on its own. But you had an idea what to do, and you forced people to do this at some point.
Yeah.
And that's what's the new project that's happening right now since 3 years.
No, since it came out. We're for those that don't know, we're speaking about the Jazzanova record that I did. It's the Strata Records, The Sound of Detroit, reimagined by Jazzanova record that I put out on my label. And so just to give a little, yes, there it is right there. Just to give a little like history on the record or on the project. This is something that I always wanted to do. Even back when I was in Brooklyn, I wanted to do with some Detroit musicians and some American musicians, but I never had the money, or some of them weren't really interested at the time. And then during the pandemic, like when none of us were doing anything and we couldn't DJ and shit like that.
Well, we streamed like mad. That was it.
Yeah, that was about it. But I was like, I need something more. You know what I mean? And so then I was like, you know what? I brought up the idea again, and I approached Jazzanova about the record. And I came by the office here in Berlin and explained it to their label manager, Ali, from Sonar Collective. And he was like, this sounds like a great idea. Maybe you should talk to Stefan Leijering, one of the original guys from the group. So he arranged a meeting with me and Stefan was like, this is an amazing idea. I would love to do this. And the way I paid for this is that there's a, yes, indeed.
Really nice.
There's a program here called Initiative Music.
Yeah.
Which is like a government. I think it's a government.
It's a government funding.
Government funding
for cultural, especially for music, of course.
For cultural funding for music, and during regular times, they were paying 60% of the budget, and you would have to come up with 40. But during the pandemic, they upped it to 90%, and you only had to pay for 10%. So I got in there right away, and so I approached Jazzanova about like, hey man, you choose 5 of your favorite songs from the Strata catalog, and I'll choose 5 of mine. And let's put that together and make not a reinterpretation or a remix album, but a reimagine. Reimagine these songs in a different way. Because everybody tries to do a reinterpretation or a cover. I didn't want to do that. I wanted you to like have your mind flipped in a different way to think about the songs. So that's what I did. And the last song you just played, Facing My Window, was one of the songs that they actually covered on the record. But my favorite song is the Saturday Night Special. I don't know if it's on that side.
No, it's a creative.
It's on the other side.
No, not on this one.
We can go creative musicians too, because that's the other big one.
I think that's the hit.
Yeah, that's the
somehow.
Yeah, that was our first single actually too. So
yeah, that's what I mean. Almost. Yeah, now we got it. Yes.
Here we go.
Wednesdays on Wax.
When in despair, don't take to the air. Sit down and feel what you know is real. Creative musicians keep on rolling right along. Creative musicians keep on rolling right along. When in doubt, don't take time to shout. Just do your best and put all values to test. Creative musicians keep on rolling right along. Creative musicians keep on rolling right along. When in despair, don't take to the air. Sit down and feel what you know is real. Creative musicians keep on rolling right along. Creative musicians keep on rolling right along. Creative musicians keep on rolling right along.
Yeah, Dave, I got them to make a jazz album, man, which was really big. And the DJ Sweet Tooth, man, I'm still working on this American tour, man. It's just the visas for all 9 of these guys, man. It's hella expensive, man.
Yeah, that's artist visas for states. You just can do this if you got really quite huge or lots of shows.
Yeah.
You can't just do it with for I don't know 8 shows or something that's not working. It's too expensive. I think it's around 3,000 for each person, something like that.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
It's a
not
10-piece band.
Yeah, it's not cheap,
It's like
man.
30K already
Yeah,
just for the
you know what I'm
visas.
saying? Like, so, it's got to really, we got to find somebody to sponsor us, like pay for the trips and pay for the visas, man.
That's just the visas. There's
So
no
if
trips
you
or
guys know,
hotels.
yeah, exactly. So if you guys know anybody, please holler.
I don't think that will happen through this one.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's the same. The people in here, they all spend their money on records already.
Yeah, exactly. I'm lucky that they even bought some,
But who was the singer on this one?
Sean Heffley, who is from Indianapolis but has been living here for about 9 years now.
All right.
And some people are probably like, "Why aren't you working with Paul Randolph?" Well, again, we were working during the pandemic, so this record was recorded in a month in April of 2021, and it was like still lockdown time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so he couldn't get here, and I wanted to record this. And Initiative Music, when you get the money right away, they want the record right away.
Yeah.
So I had a month to do it, and it was crazy because I also had to spend 700 euros just on the COVID tests. Every day we had to take tests because if they came in,
The PCR ones.
yeah,
Oh,
if they came in while we were recording and we couldn't show a negative test, they'd shut it down, and I couldn't afford that. You know what I mean? So like we had to do this in a month time, and somebody recommended Sean, and I actually had met Sean before, so it's been good, man. He's got that Gil Scott-Heron, Terry Callier vibe about him with the record. You know what I mean?
So basically, that was a rush hour thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad it came out well because
That's
sometimes
crazy,
you
yeah.
rush and it's crap.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know?
And the fun part is that you also, because of the Jazzanova infrastructure, you're working with Bestworks, with Daniel Best and Bestworks Agency, which nowadays means, he was always like that, but and they are, I say now, like collective heydays when the DJs were up front at the Jazzanovas.
Right.
He was more the DJ booking nowadays. That's why the band was kind of like invented somehow to keep this thing driving still.
Right.
Now because of the whole band thing anyways worldwide went up, like everybody wants to see bands.
Right,
So that's why it's working pretty well because they still have the same quality like the whole Jazzanova collective and Sonar collective thing always had.
Right.
So it's a high class band.
Right.
With high class music before even. And now you coming into this scene.
Right.
Like bringing the whole Strata catalog and reimagining it, and that's a very interesting point because there's two high class brains kind of clashing together.
Yeah, coming together and making this happen. I mean, sometimes I sit back and I'm like, I can't even believe that this actually happened, because it was just a dream at first. You know what I mean? Like, okay, maybe this can happen. And then, I did this Initiative Music thing. And then I also did a Kickstarter campaign to get the rest of the money.
Yeah, I've seen it for the remixes, right?
Yeah,
it was very successful.
Yeah, for the remixes and also just to pay, because I also paid someone to record a making of video, which he's almost done with, editing it and getting it all together. But so I put a lot into this, and it's just like a dream come true. And first of all, I want to thank people like Lil Dave for contributing to the Kickstarter campaign and helping this dream of mine come true. Everyone that did that, man. I mean, it's definitely been great. And speaking of the remixes, remix.
Big up Hydro. See you.
Hopefully I can get to Philly. We can get to Philly. Dave, if you know somebody in Philly that would want to book us, man, for a show, man, I'm still trying to figure that out.
And then you're visiting Stinky.
Yeah, Stinky Steve. I don't know. Hopefully he's less stinky this time.
So which remix we have to offer here?
Well, the Chaosy one is the one that everybody likes off of this one. This is the Saturday Night Special, the second single.
A2, yeah.
So yeah, I think it's Chaosy.
He's
a Detroit original cat, but now lives in Atlanta.
All right. Here we go. This is the Strata Records remix EP, 12-inch. What is it? This is an EP kind of.
Yeah,
it's 4 tracks.
Yeah, it's 4 tracks, so it's kind of like a.
Used to be a 12 before, in the old days.
Yeah, exactly.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Don't whack.
Wednesdays on Wax.
Yeah.
Oh, now comes the housey, jazzy summer vibes.
Yeah. Peace to my man KIC, man. Thank you for the great remix, man.
Yeah, it's like pretty advanced stuff. Very, very Giles Peterson like.
Yeah. He definitely loved it.
Yep.
You know. But yeah, man, I mean, this is a dream project, and like I said to you before off camera, man, Jazzanova and I have already decided that we want to do another 4-song EP of other Strata songs, which will hopefully be next year, but I got to figure out paying for that. So we're going to continue to keep working together, man. It's like I said before, like I feel like I'm a part of the family. Like we're family now because we've been on the road for so long, you know, since April we've been to so many different countries and been through so much shit together, you know, that it's like family now, you know what I mean? And that's like a dream come true for me too, because I'm still a fan at the end of the day, you know?
And did it crazy music from end of 90s on, kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, they met mid-90s, then started pretty fast to produce things, but the breakthrough came, I think, end 90s.
Yeah. That's when in the end of the 90s is when they got on my radar, and I was like, oh shit, who's this group from, you know, Jazzanova from Germany, you know what I mean? Like at first, you know, like the name, you think of Jazzanova, so I'm thinking it's only jazz, but it's like electronic and jazz.
That
too.
was a time when they invented kind of like a style called new jazz.
Yeah,
it was like broken beat, funky breaks, and jazz, and even world music was already always part of their setup. The fun part is there was a legendary club here.
Yeah, something.
Delicious Donuts.
Yeah, they always tell me about. That's where they all met.
This club was, I think they opened 94, maybe 93. I'm not totally sure. I think 94 rather. And closed even some when 98 maybe. Oh wow! But that was their crazy tourist space. But this club, they had really high-end DJs already in. Like the one guy who used to work at the Soul Trade store back then, called DJ Minsky. He's one of those eclectic funk, soul, jazz, and everything in between DJs, but with a really, really high-end good taste.
Okay.
And the Jazzanovas, they're just starting out, and I think they even were like regularly booked. They just, I'm not 200% sure, but definitely they were not booked internationally or anything. They weren't know Jazzanova at this point.
Right.
Those guys met at this club and listened to Minsky,
to
the selection. And those 3 DJs and the 3 producers came as a posse there together through Minsky. That's the crazy part. Minsky was, I know him since forever. He's like forever. He's not anymore around.
Okay.
Rarely seen, not spinning anymore. Maybe he's do, but nobody knows where then.
Okay.
That's the point. So I think he's kind of out.
Okay.
But there were a few of those really crazy eclectic, crazy collecting, and then preaching DJs kind of, you know. Like he wasn't really, he just played what he really believed in.
Right.
And then that catch the whole vibe of Jazzanova. And then but they were the producers. I mean, actually, the producers are old school hip hop producers.
Yeah, no.
Like Roscoe, he was my mentor.
Oh, really?
He's not anymore with them, but the big times he was all the Mr. Scruff remixes and all that. Boom Clicky, Boom Clack, all that's all from Roscoe. Okay. And he was the guy who showed me the Emax sampler in 92.
Oh, wow.
So he did one of the very first hip hop records in Germany. He rocked the most. Used the posse. He was the MC there.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and then he became a producer.
Wow.
And they did other projects before, Hitchhikers and stuff like that.
Okay.
And the other ones, Stefan Leiseringer and all these extended Spirit producer team, he came from the east side.
Okay.
And they came together through the Delicious Donuts, and then Jazzanova happened.
Right, yeah.
And from there on, it's the whole Jazzanova story until they met DJ Amir.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, the first person I met from Jazzanova was Con and I were in Hamburg for you remember Beta Lounge? There was a Beta Lounge with Heiko. So
Look what Florian's writing.
Oh shit. Yeah. There you go. So Heiko had myself and Con and Alex Bark play, and that's the first. I met him in 2005, and I was like, oh shit, because I was already a fan of Jazzanova, so to meet one of them was like a privilege. And then years later, actually a year later after that, I met Jürgen at a party here in Berlin. So I met two of them, and I didn't know Klaas, Stefan, and the rest of the guys. You know what I mean? So, so when I met Stefan, and I was like, "Oh, you're the one that makes the music. You and Axel." I was like, "Oh shit, okay." So, because everybody in the States thinks it's Jürgen and Alex that make all the music. They're just the DJs.
I know they're the good collectors and the DJs. But
yeah.
the music always was made by Extended Spirit. They used to call those two.
Yep.
Before Jazzanova.
Okay.
And Roscoe was Roscoe.
Yeah. So, but it was, I got an education just learning the difference between the two, like the band and then.
But this project, I think is one of the best I've ever heard. Not only from Germany, but that's, the Cosma project. Cosma from Roscoe. I think this is super great.
Yeah.
I remember a set with Roscoe. He got a record room. With really, really selected, but lots of like really high-end collection, and a small table. We smoke a little doobie, and then the two chairs just. We sat there, and then he put out one record after the other on a Lenko turntable, and he played me stuff, and he brought like a root to like in the end he played Cosma. And then I understood everything through this lane he built.
Right.
Why it's so complex, why it sounds like it sounds, and all that made totally click when because of the old records that influence all the sound, like all the puzzles
fit together. Yeah,
it's crazy.
Wow.
So and that's I think the whole thinking of Jazzanova was always like that. Like they took this high quality of musicianship from the old records and collections, and record collecting, and they never wanted to be less than this with their electronic production.
Right.
The band came later.
Yeah. I mean, the band came in 2009, which I found out, so yeah, man, it's been a privilege to work with these guys and, to actually say that, I came here to work with some German, musicians, and I actually finally did it. And at a high level too, it's like, because every time I meet other German people randomly here, and I'm like, oh, they were like, what do you do? I was like, oh, I just put out the new Jazzanova. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know that they were that big. You know what I mean? Here, but they're like huge, especially a lot of places that we played in Germany. Like the audience just goes crazy, man. I mean, a lot of them are in their 40s and 50s.
Yeah, of course. Their fans grew with them. Nowadays, the DJ is playing more house.
Yeah.
Before they really did totally wide spectrum.
Right.
From Brazil to the broken beat stuff, to the old funk records, and of course organic house. But nowadays a lot of times because of the clubs changed. Lots of only house now, but still it's they have their collections, they have their knowledge.
Oh yeah.
Reputation, everything is there, of course.
Yeah. I don't think that's ever gonna go away, man.
No.
They're gonna still have that.
So not easy was asking, do we sell records today?
Oh yeah. So no, we're not gonna sell records today, but so I just wanted to show you some of the original records that I pressed a long time ago. So this is the first one I started my label off with. This guy was the actual founder and CEO of Strata Records, Kenny Cox. This is a record he didn't even get a chance to put out. So I felt it was fitting to put this as the first record out on my label. What else? Yeah, Kenny Cox. You might know him from the group CJQ, Contemporary Jazz Quintet. They had 2 records on Blue Note, and then he left them and he decided to start, Strata Records. This guy right here, Larry Naziro, was the second release. Larry Naziro, for those that don't know, the uninitiated, he is the guy that does the horn riff on What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. That's his. He was a session musician with Motown. In fact, a lot of the guys on Strata were session musicians on Strata. So he was just one of them. He had a couple of records.
Is this still Fat Beats distributed?
Yeah, this is back in the days. Yeah, I started off with Fat Beats as my distribution.
All right.
So this is the third release I had, Sam Sanders with the Face on My Window, which you heard earlier before. This was a record that never came out as well. This record didn't even have names of the songs. I had to figure out the names of the songs by the chorus. Didn't have artwork, no photos, like literally nothing. Interesting fact about this record also is for those that are familiar with Don Was from Was Not, the group, who's also now the president of Blue Note Records. This is the first record he ever engineered. I spoke to him and he was like, yeah, man, it was another one of those situations. The engineer didn't show up that day and they were like, Don, you want to engineer this record? And he was like, yeah, why not? So, yeah, you know, a little bit of history. This next one right here is Ron English. It's his record that also didn't come out, Fish Feet. Interesting thing about the cover, I don't know if you can see the cover that clear, but it's a painting that Overton Lloyd, if you know Overton Lloyd, he did a lot of the animation covers for Parliament Funkadelic. This was his first thing before he started doing stuff with them. He used to, you know, he was a really good friend of Ron English. And the last thing, because I got a few more, but this is the last one. This is a 5 LP box set of a Charles Mingus concert that was never heard before until I released it about 4 years ago. Wow. Strata Records had their own concert gallery where they had Charles Mingus come and he did a 5-hour show. The week after that, they had Herbie Hancock and Wandishu around in 1973. They had Ornette Coleman, they had Chick Corea, they had Weather Report, they had Elvin Jones, Keith Jarrett. They had a whole bunch of people at this small jazz concert gallery. And it was all owned by Strata. So just to give you a little bit of the catalog of, you know, of stuff that I've been doing.
So I heard there's an unreleased Herbie Hancock album in between.
Yeah. I'm trying to get the master, because, you know, when Strata broke up, certain people took certain masters and broke out.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to find that master. I've already been trying to get a hold of Herbie. Because actually Herbie, I follow him on Instagram. One day he posted the original poster from Strata on his Instagram, and I hit him up right away like, "Yo, I've been trying to put this out." Blah blah blah. He didn't answer me because I'm sure like he has millions of followers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But I would the actual show. Somebody put a really shitty copy of it on YouTube, so you can hear it. It's not the sound quality is horrible, but you can hear how good the show was. If you know music, you can hear it. You know what I mean? So. I would love to do that, you know, but that's I'm up to about 20 releases now over the last 10 years, which is not bad.
Yeah, it's fair enough. And it's quality all the time. That's the point.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just bullshit
you
put out.
Maybe the Mingus is crazy.
Yeah.
I remember he told me about that.
Yeah, man.
But to see it, it's a different story. But it's coming even something new out.
Yes.
I
decided
on
to
BBE it was
yeah, this is the BBE.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Now it's BBE.
Yeah.
So jumping forth and back between the chairs.
Boom.
But it's okay. This is coming in January.
Yeah, this is
exclusive here. First time
you're hearing and seeing.
Yeah.
You know, but this is a best of Strata. For those people that don't know Strata Records, this is kind of like a good introduction for you. Some of the best tracks that I like that fully represent the wide spectrum of music on Strata, because it's not just jazz. There's some Latin music, there's some soul music on there, there's some jazz fusion. You know what I mean? Like, and yeah. So I think this is a good representation for it. So finally the vinyl is here. It'll be ready in late January, as well as the.
I think we have to listen to.
Oh yeah.
Another song.
Another song.
I'm just wondering where's the other.
Let me see.
Because this is. Oh well, no, they're coming. Is it triple also?
Yeah, it's triple.
Okay, because then those are the two. No, wait. Why is here doubles? Then it's. What is what? Those are the real or not? Yeah, no. Wait.
No.
That's what I mean.
That's the. I think
they're
the
ones.
ones.
Put in already, so this is the.
Yeah, I think it's the ones under
and
there.
then here we have. One.
Yeah.
So cool. You can look through what you want to play to us.
Okay.
So I can play.
play one of the Latin tracks.
All right.
Now, this next artist is Fito Foster, and this goes out to DJ Dez Andres from Detroit. His father, Nenge, is this person playing on this record, so he has a real intimate connection to Strata. He also used to be the DJ for Slum Village, too, for those that know. And here we go.
Que quiero comunicar y con su sonido alegre pinto salsa y sabor. Ahora quiero explicarle cómo todo sucedió. Éramos músicos con ambición, nos inspiramos del corazón, porque la droga solo hay dolor. Queremos paz y prosperación, con mi tumba y mi voz se lo demuestro yo. Salsa me pides, salsa me traigo, yo con mi comba, yo con mi piano, y ahora nos unimos, mi hermano, para estar en algo. Nos inspiramos del corazón, nos inspiramos del corazón. Un mensaje a todos quiero llevar. La droga está acabando con esta humanidad. Dios nos ha mandado al mundo a hacer bien en vez de mal. Muchos creen que con la droga se toca mejor, pero están equivocados, en la droga solo hay dolor. Todavía me pregunto por qué ha de ser así. Jesús que en la cruz murió, oye mira por nosotros, para que pudiéramos vivir feliz. Muchas madres han llorado por sus hijos que se han perdido en un mundo de ilusiones, pero madre no lloré. Nos inspiramos del corazón, nos inspiramos del corazón.
Wednesdays on Wax.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely not only jazz. That was
Definitely some
deep Latin.
Yeah, exactly. Some good salsa for you. So
Really
yeah,
nice.
it's on this compilation, and I got a few more left of Strata Masters. I'm trying to do some more of the live shows like the Herbie, and I would love to do the Chick Corea one if I can find it, and a few other ones. You know what I mean? Which is crazy. Like you know what I mean? Like. I mean, I wish I had that, not to be on some like exploitive shit, like, to release that when he had passed away a couple of years ago. You know what I mean?
But the point is, if you're, let's say, you have to write to the Strata catalog, but still Herbie have to say yes, right?
Yeah. That's why I was trying to get a hold of Herbie. Cause And also to interview him, like, what about that night?
Liner notes, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
To build liner notes for stuff like that.
Exactly. So,
would be a great project because then he also can reminisce and remember and all that.
Yeah.
He's probably forgotten almost. I mean, not yet because there was the poster, but still,
Right.
he knows he did some when in a few days an album there somewhere in Detroit.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Exactly.
and probably he would like it even directly straight away because he couldn't remember what he did there, and then
Yeah,
oh
and
shit,
plus
that's
he's
stuff for me
getting-
from this great times.
Yeah, and plus he's getting up there. I think he's like 80 something years old now. So, you know, but he still looks good for his age, man. I would love to work, to say I work with Herbie Hancock would be like, ah, you know what I mean? Like, that's fucking dope, man. Like,
Absolute.
you know, but yeah, man.
So when you say you get the masters, but you have to mix down them from scratch, basically.
Yeah. I mean,
They're not pre-mixed.
No, not at
Of
all.
course
I
not.
mean, it's just like, the thing is,
But who's doing this?
there's a guy in the UK that BBE uses now that I use called Frank. Is Frank Merritt from the Cavalry.
Wow.
He does. I mean, the guy has won Grammys actually for some of the work he's done.
All right.
He's really good, man. He knows, he really knows how to get the best out of the music. So, I used to use a guy in Long Island in New York, Alex Abrash, who's also very good. What's up, Alex? I'm sure you're not on here because he's not one of those dudes. But, he was also good in doing a lot of stuff. But, yeah, you're right. I definitely got to get a good mix. Then you got to figure out how you do the vinyl splits and blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of work into it, but it's fun work.
Yeah, also the product in the end it's staying. It's, it's still, it's not, you don't put stuff like that on Spotify, do you?
I mean, it's on. You have to play the Spotify game these days.
Yeah, but is it really working? I mean, really people streaming that?
I mean,
this music is usually not
really.
your telephone music.
Not really this. I mean, the only stuff that I've had that streamed a lot was the Jazzanova stuff.
Yeah, okay, probably.
Yeah, that's because they already have a history of a lot of streams for their music. So, but like Lyman and all this other stuff. I mean, some of the stuff now is starting to stream a little more because of the Jazzanova stuff. Because people are like, "Oh, who is this that they're covering?" But before that, it was like 10, 12, streams. Nobody's really looking for this music.
That's what I mean.
You know what I mean?
It's very special niche.
Yeah.
It's selling rather on wax than
on digital.
Yeah, CDs is also useless for that.
Yeah, exactly. Although, unless you're in Japan, they still buy CDs.
Really?
So I have a separate deal in Japan just for CDs because they still love CDs for some reason.
I mean, there's a comeback for used CDs, but probably also for new then. I know from Discogs that there's a second most growing market on Discogs after the vinyl, of course, is like CDs.
Oh wow, I didn't.
Yeah,
know that.
it's really like 2 digits. It's crazy. It's going. I mean, there's like crazy collecting niches. There's like Andre Langenfeld told me once that should check out like how comes the crazy part. 90s hip hop, like mid 90s, beginning 90s hip hop, 12-inch CDs. Like the single CDs.
Oh yeah, the singles.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
the CD singles.
Yeah, CD singles.
Wow.
Those are fucking expensive now.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Man, I used to have so many of those because I used to get them just being in the
Look
music
through
industry.
them, look on Discogs. You will see there are some of them like Mobb Deep goes for 200-300 euros. Yeah, like Master Ace joins for 100.
Wow.
Super crazy. It's super crazy. You can pay your rent with old promo CDs.
Yeah, you don't give a shit about it anymore because it's like whatever. Wow. Is this called video discs?
Yeah, the 12-inch. I was wrong with that. It's called Maxi CD in German. That's why I was with the 12-inch, but it's a single CD, of course. Yeah, it's with the remix and all that instrumental on it. And
Yeah, acapella or whatever.
yeah, we're all rich if you have this. I don't have much of them.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, I have them back at home, but
There you go, your pension.
yeah, my pension. Yeah, man. I wish, man. That would be nice, man. I still need to get the rest of my records here from Brooklyn out of my storage. I pay that storage bill every month faithfully. 'Cause if you don't pay it, they'll auction it. You know what I mean? And
It's
I'm
bad.
like,
That's expensive.
it's expensive to also ship them here because you need.
I know,
I need a
that's-
container, and that's not. And then also the custom tax. Oh,
Custom and the weight. The
Man.
weight is the most expensive part, I would say.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, every time I go home, I take as much as I can on the plane. But then that's gonna take me.
So probably
several-
in 15 years you got him over here.
Yeah, exactly. And by that time, I'll be like, You know, so we'll see. Who knows, man?
Okay.
Wow, dub plates.
Out of single CDs?
I mean, I probably can see that. Yeah, true.
I mean, yeah, if you bootlegging, like there's a lot of all those bootlegs out there, right? Like those really like Still Dre and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you need a good master. You don't get it from 12 inch or whatever. So you're trying to get a 12 inch or an album on CD for having a good pre-master, and then you're still working on it, but but you need a digital copy actually for this bootleg shit that people doing right now.
Yeah. You can't just take it off of anything because nobody wants that, man.
There were times where people did that.
Yeah, no. And
I mean, when I had Diamond D here and I showed him this really, really awful bootleg, like with a cardboard and just a white paper sticker on it.
Okay.
And that was the only version of his first album available here. And it's like, and it sounds horrible. It's like everything is bad on this one. But it was the only version we could have at this time.
Wow. Yeah, that is crazy. Wow.
That's true. There's a lot of rare stuff on. Unreleased stuff, like unreleased remixes and stuff. That's true.
Yeah, no, there is a lot of that stuff, man. But I mean, even on some of those cassettes too, because you know I still have. I remember going to the store back in like '93 or '94 and getting a promo copy of Black Bastards, the CD, not CD, the cassette album of the second KMD album that never came out on vinyl back then. You know what I mean? I still have shit like that, and there's another group from that JD produced called Fifth Elements or something like that. It was like they only made a record on cassette. So apparently somebody told me that record goes for a lot of money these days, and I'm like, wow. How many volumes of On Track? There's 6.
But 4 on tape.
4 on tape and 2 on 2 on cassette. I mean 2 on CDs.
Yeah, then there was this compilation on BBE or what?
No, before we did that, because we did another side project called Pop-In Trans Europe Express, which was like when I was really into super uber like European records. So we just did a mix of all European records, and that was like a side one. That was in 2005. Then we did the last On Track, and then we did our first record. Our first compilation was on this label called Seven Heads, and that was Uncle Junior's Friday Fish Fry. Where we did a whole bunch of like, you know, rare stuff on there. And then our first record on BBE was the Kings of Digging, us versus DJ Moro.
Yeah, I know.
And that was in 2006.
But I thought I've seen it on track also somehow as a compilation.
No, that was off track.
Off track.
Yeah,
that's why. Because
yeah.
Okay, now I got it.
Yeah.
All right, that one. I have one. I don't know. It's not even a question, but a story came to my mind, which is now will be crazy fun for you, or different. I don't know.
Okay.
Soul Strut Forum.
Oh God, I already know where you're going with this. I already know. You know, it's funny. I was just talking about him. I was talking about him like 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So, you know, like on the second Off Track, I started getting into really African records, right?
Yeah.
And we finished that, and then a friend of mine in New York was like, "You should talk to this guy named Frank, Voodoo Frank." He was going by. He lives in New York. He knows African records. I was like, "Oh, okay." So I contacted Frank, and at the time I was like, "I don't want no African funk records. I want some African disco and boogie." This is like early on before people really started getting into that. So he was like, "Come by my house." We had some beers and stuff, and he's just pulling me out African funk records. I'm like, "I told you, I don't want this." So I started going through his collection and pulling out all these like, "Oh shit, this is a dope, you know, disco record." So I bought like 3 records, and I was upfront with him. I was like, "Look, I'm doing a compilation, just so you know what I'm doing with these records." Because back then people used to get upset. "I don't want to sell you a record if you're gonna make a compilation." Right? So here's the money. 2 months after that, I get an email from him. He's like, "Hey, this Doris Abungi record you can't use because I bought the record. I bought the rights to the record now, and I'm putting out a compilation." And I was just like, "What? Like, what are you talking about? You don't even know anything about African disco." I had to put you onto this record. And I was like, you know what? Okay, so you don't want to. So let me get my money back, and you can just have the record, and I'll just take the record off. So then I go to BBE, and they're like, it's too late. We already started making the CD promos and everything else. It's like, and we paid the guy who actually owns the record. So I had to go back and tell him that. And then one day, Khan wakes me up, and he's like, yo, go on Soul Strut, man. Because your man, Frank,
Man, it was
is going crazy.
30 pages or something like that.
Dude, and at the time, I was a lot younger, and I can have a temper, and I was like, I wasn't even thinking. I was just like, bleh. I wasn't even making sense because I was so fucking pissed.
Yeah.
I was like,
Because he was war on Soul Strut.
Oh, man, it was a war because he was like, oh, I'm gonna burn I hope your record collection burns, and this and that. And then people like Al Kent and all these other people from all over the world were like, Amir, you shouldn't say that. I was like, dude, he's saying to me ill things. Like, I want your record collection to burn, this, that, and the other.
The boutique digger.
Yeah, boutique digger and this and that. I'm like, then I was like, yo, dude, you fucking say that you pay all these African cats, the right prices, and you take care of them, and then I find out he's not doing that at all. He wasn't doing that at all. So then I started coming back at him. The whole thing blew up. It got all over the world. People would, everywhere I would go, people were like, oh, what happened with you and Frank? So then one day he emails me and he goes, hey, man, I'm so sorry. And I saved these emails just in case, right? He's like, I'm so sorry. I've been going through it with my wife, and, can we sit and have coffee and just, make peace? All right, cool. So I told him to meet me at the Starbucks across from Wax Bodies. He never came. So then I'm like, fuck this dude, right? So I'm at a record show, WFMU, right? One time with a friend of mine helping him sell records. Frank comes over with a rare African record. He was like, I want to give this to you to make amends with you, to say I'm sorry, but please don't sell this record. When he left, I sold the record because I was like, I don't want your energy around me. You know what I mean? Because he was just, and what happened is that he went to the artist who didn't actually own the record, but said they owned the record, and then tried to mess with us.
It's often very, very tough to say in those countries. And there's the nephew, there's two uncles, and the auntie. Yeah. Everybody said, yeah, I know him. I'd have the rights.
Yeah, it's hard
you're
to
signing
know.
some paper and even don't know shit.
Exactly, especially in countries, not countries, but in places like Africa,
where
it's the Wild West. A lot of stuff was done with a handshake,
not
on paper, so you don't really have a contract. So it is what it is, but man, that was a hell of a time in our life, man. It was a big thing, man.
Whew. Man, it was a good soap opera for me to read.
It was a good, I'm sure it was for people outside, but inside I was like, oh.
Yeah, of course. I was stressy for that.
But yeah, man.
Yeah, and Pete was also pissed, of course.
Yeah, because he was cutting and pasting the emails between the two of them, making himself look like he was in the right when he was really in the wrong. And I'm talking about Frank, not Peter. So, yeah, man, the Seven Heads joint, yeah, man, I still got a couple of sealed copies at home I need to get, man, myself too, man. You know what the rarest thing that we put out is that me and Khan did a special mix for 555 Soul that they only sold at the 555 store in Japan. And I never had gotten a copy of that until recently. Somebody from Japan posted that they had it, and I was like, oh man, do you have any extra copies? He sent me his copy. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't know that exists, but there is one. I'm gonna post it. I need to transfer it because I don't even know what it's on there because I haven't heard it in almost 20 years.
Yeah, there's stuff sometimes it's popping up, and you're like, oh shit, it's what I did back then somehow.
Yeah. So we got a lot of stuff that we put out there, and I'm trying to gather it all, to at least own the stuff that you put out. Like you have your wall of fame in the back of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's the old and
stuff,
the recent kind of. I mean, the recent is already 8 years also again.
Yeah.
The Dusty Donut stuff is 8 years already.
Word.
That's crazy. So what lies in the future besides this nice compilation in January?
Well, probably a part 2 of the best of Strata. And then I have a few more Strata releases unreleased, like there's a mixed bag for those people that are really into spiritual jazz. Mixed bag. They did a record on Tribe Records, but they also did a record on Strata, which I'm trying to put out. And then all the live shows like Herbie Hancock, Chick Corea, and stuff like that. And that's all I have for the Strata releases. So moving into more of like I have the stems. So I've been trying to do remixes of some of the stuff, whether it's house, hip hop, whatever. Yeah, man, and then look for the next label that's out there that nobody knows that I can sink my teeth into, which isn't a lot because a lot of stuff has already been
crazy.
up.
There's a lot of people who are doing similar, like Sonorama Records, for example.
Yeah.
They dig deep, or like Black Pearl Records with Roscoe.
Yep.
They dig deep. They have crazy.
Athens of the North and
they are crazy too. Of
Jazzman. There's a lot. Numero. There's a lot of competition out there. There's everybody's looking for stuff, but I was blessed to be able to get in early or get Strata Records. I wish I could get Strata East because even though that stuff has been bootlegged, there's still a lot of stuff that I know that never came out that they probably recorded. Like imagine a Heath Brothers record that never came out, or like the stems from Heath Brothers. You can go in there and make a proper like hip hop. You know what I mean? Like, or songs that were supposed to be on that album that weren't. You know what I mean? There's so much shit there, man. Like, but it's just really there's only one guy left from Strata East, and that's Charles Tolliver, because Stanley passed away I think 3 years ago. So I've been trying to get a hold of Charles, but they have to want it to do it. Can't force anyone to do it. So that's really what I would say, man. What's up, Michael? What's going on, man?
So I think we're about to closing the show.
Okay.
With one last song.
Yes. Let me see. Which should I do? Oh, you know what? I know what now.
Okay, here would be two other options.
Oh, you got another one?
No.
Okay.
All right.
This one is Maiden Voyage version by Ursula Walker.
First of all, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, man.
Bringing all those crazy insights. There were a lot. Well, way more than we did in the first time.
Yeah.
Not only because of the Strata project, that was already there too, but we wasn't talking too much. We kept it straight to this. Each one records, 7 records and all that, and like hip hop samples, jazz samples. Which was all cool. We had another cool stories at this time, which was also really nice. But it was just on Instagram and not many people, and it was a different type of watching on Twitch.
Right.
A different community even. They were very similar, but they grew over different people at this time. So that's why I thought it was important. And it was 2 years ago, so a lot of things happened.
In 2 years, man.
Pandemic is quite over.
Yep.
So everybody can see the world again, and people going out and enjoying live music, and that's why this project is working well now.
Yeah. Thank God, man. I'm really appreciative. The fact that these guys said yes, and
absolutely.
And thank you for having me on the show, man. Like I said,
of course,
we've known each other for a long time, so
that's this show is made for crazy, underground stuff. Actually, for diggers, for forgotten legends. We had last Wednesday on Wax, we had Cool Rock Ski and Fat Boys.
Oh shit!
Together with Cocaine.
Oh wow!
Yeah, they're doing music now together.
Wow!
Yeah. So that's stuff nobody's getting. That's interesting part on it. At some point, we all have to die, and then the archaeologists coming and putting it into museums.
Right.
But it takes a while.
No doubt about that, man.
So great show. Thanks guys. Thanks for watching.
Peace, y'all.
Shed Love, 45 Day, Christos, Mixstar, Not Easy, Sweet Tooth, Little Dave.
Yeah. To everyone, peace, y'all.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4.
answer the